Okie pokey weirdos, I'm Rev, and I might be just a little bit of an Elvis fan. And now we're on to 72, Elvis on tour. We're on tour. Okay. For the tour, we have the
Red Lion or White Matador?
belt of the matching name for the Spring 72 tour, and it is one of the mini pinwheel suits. We have the red pinwheel suit, the only fully red suit ever made for him, also known as the Red Matador or Burning Love. No original matching belt. Gasp! Normally he would wear the gold attendance belt with this one, also for the spring tour, and now it is in a private collector's collection. If I do not mention if a private collector owns it or if it is at Graceland, you could probably bet your whole life savings that it is at Graceland, because Elvis Presley Enterprises has been working pretty heavily on collecting as much as they can after they had their auction where they were trying to stay afloat. And now that they have money again, they're like, bring it all back, we want it all back! But there are plenty of private collectors who still have a lot of his pieces, and they ain't letting go of them anytime soon. The blue nail suit, usually worn with its original belt, but also sometimes the white fireworks belt. This one was worn for the 72 tour in April, and it is now owned by a private collector. Another fireworks, the royal blue one, comes with the owl belt. He was seen wearing this in the 72 documentary, and now we can get to my personal favorite suit, the owl suit. It's partially my favorite because it's purple, and I love purple, but also because of the owl belt that was originally made with it. This suit was also in the documentary tour, and I love that within that documentary, Elvis looked down at the belt and looked at the audience and was like, hey, if anybody can't see this, this is an owl. I gotta see if I can find that clip, I love it. And I'd really like to make this costume out of the same kind of stretch material Bill used for these designs, except that kind of material does cost the monies, so you can support me on Ko-fi or Patreon if you'd like to see any of these suits recreated. In 71, he did participate in the Outstanding Young Men's Award, so I took some pictures of the suit that he wore to that. I think the little ruffle cuffs are absolutely adorable. Again with the lights on the glass. What a frickin' picture. You also have the ruffles down the center front and the cute little bow tie. The black pyramid suit, there's also a white one, but we'll get there. The little pyramid studs were actually teeny tiny butterflies, and I love that detail so much. Normally butterflies are considered so feminine, but as the years went on, Bill decided, and Elvis agreed, that they should get a little more flashy and add elements that are a little more feminine, like the crystals, rhinestones, butterflies, and various colors that weren't normally worn by male performers at the time. This one was either worn with its original belt or the gold attendance belt, and there were originally two versions of this costume. During the fitting, we have photos of him with yellow lining and yellow kick plates. However, all of the performance photos of him have him in a version that has the gold lining and gold kick plates. And those show photos are from August and September of 71 in Vegas. The white pyramid suit actually has pyramid studs on it. No original belt, although he would normally wear the white macrame belt with it, or the gold attendance belt. While this suit was worn in the 72 tour, it is more so recognized for being at the Madison Square Garden. When I took pictures of this one myself, I was actually really interested in how all of the eyelets along the chest had weathered so much. A lot of them are kind of beat up. Even though on a number of the other suits, the eyelets were not so beat up, so this one was probably worn a lot more. There's also a number of snags on the pant legs, makes me wonder how it kept getting caught, where it was getting caught. The Adonis suit, also known as the White Comet suit, normally worn with the gold attendance belt, this one was seen at the MSG? Yes, the MSG concert. Abbreviations, man. On June 9th, 72, and there should have been a matching belt, but we've never seen it. Fun movie trivia. Kurt Russell played Elvis in 79, and he wore this suit. The actual one. When Kurt Russell and the director went to Graceland to get a feel and get the energy for this movie, Vernon met up with them to give them this private tour, Vernon being Elvis's father, And Vernon said, you know what, how about we have you try on one of these suits so you can get more of a vibe for it. So they got Kurt Russell in this suit, the Adonis suit, and it surprisingly fit him perfectly. Considering how many sizes Elvis had been over the years, there was probably going to be one that fit him at least okay, but it was impressive that it fit him perfectly. And because it fit him so well, Vernon's like, you know what, go ahead and take it, use it for the movie, just return it when you're done. And then Vernon passed away before the suit was ever returned, which means that that suit was not returned, it was auctioned off, and now it is on presentation at the Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando. The wheat suit, also known as the light blue grass suit, or the cluster suit. It had an original belt, but he often wore the white fireworks belt with it. This was also worn at Madison Square Garden, and Elvis gave this suit to Dottie Rambo as a birthday present, February 73, which later led to it being auctioned off in 2009. The final winning bid for this suit, $212,000. Ka-ching. This was also the suit that was on the opening of the Baz Luhrmann movie. It made me wonder why they chose that one, because it's not one of his most famous or most popular, but he did wear it quite often, so that might have been why. And speaking of the Baz Luhrmann movie, let's talk about one of the costume designers I feel did not get as much credit as she deserved. Designer Kim Polston actually made 34 suits for the Baz Luhrmann movie. Sadly, only 10 made it into the film, but some of those suits were also duplicates because they did make 2 of the sundial suit and some of the others. What I really like about this costume designer is she's self-taught. The reason she makes Elvis costumes now is because way back in the day, soon after Elvis died, she asked her husband, if you could have anything of Elvis's, what would it be? He said he wanted one of his suits. And while she didn't have over $200,000 to be spending on a suit, she could make him one. So she made him a couple of suits for Halloween and costume parties, things like that. And the Elvis tribute artists, we do not say impersonators anymore, apparently, when I went to Graceland. That was a very naughty word. They are tribute artists. But a lot of tribute artists came to her going, oh my gosh, these suits are amazing, can you make me one? And she started making bank with these costumes, sewing them from home, and slowly created a business where she makes costumes on the regular now. And that's what I want to do. These are the kind of costumes I want to make, where I am essentially a small business, but I am making big Hollywood costumes like she is. This is awesome. I love it so much. On to the eyelet suit. Tried to call the metal eye suit eyelet suit earlier. Shame on me. It's also called the double porthole suit, normally worn with the lion head belt or the Russian eagle belt. It was seen being worn at the Madison Square Garden event in '72, and it is now in private hands. The lucky suit, not to be confused with the I got lucky suit, this one's also known as the blue swirl. It was worn with a few different belts, so let's see. It's the matching lucky belt, the blue macrame belt, and the mirror belt. It had a matching white line cape, but he damaged it so badly in the first couple of showings that they had to make him a new one for the August-September event. It is now in private hands. The white two pieces. He had gone through a couple phases of two pieces, but he honestly did not like them, did not enjoy them, because it didn't allow for the same amount of movement that the jumpsuits did. So there are a lot of them, and he hardly ever wore them. This series is a bunch of white suits with different colored cape linings and pocket flaps. The lining and pocket flap colors were black, aqua, red, green. Wow, I got all of them from memory. Okay. And normally multicolored patterned shirts were worn underneath these outfits. Now I am going to properly read off which belts go with which one, because there's a lot going on here. We have the double lion head belt for the green pocket flaps and the aqua. Red macrame belt for the red pockets. The Russian eagle belt for the red pockets. And the turquoise concho for the aqua pockets. Got all that? And I did take a picture of one of these suits, but when I took a picture of it, I took a picture of it thinking, I need to research this when I get home because I do not recognize this suit at all. And it's because he didn't normally wear the two-piece suits very often. There's also the white two-piece with laces at the sides, normally worn with the gold attendance belt. This one was worn during the June 72 tour and then also in Vegas during 72, August and September. The white turquoise concho two-piece matched with the turquoise concho belt, also for 72 August, September. Light blue paisley two-piece, original belt, and 72 August, September for Vegas. We have the Thunderbird. I personally like to call this one the Vulture suit because you have a massive condor hanging out on the back of this cape. This one would be worn with either its original belt or the Jack Lord belt. Jack Lord being a Hawaiian actor who often gifted Elvis with belts. It was recognized that the pictures of the Vulture cape are different at Graceland than they were during performances, which means that there are either two versions or studs were added to the bird's head after performances. While the suit is owned by Graceland, all the various pieces like the belt and the cape are in private hands. This being because on June 30th of 73, Elvis personally gave those pieces to a little boy who was dressed like him in the audience. Now, the website claims that this is the only suit that has kick pleats lined with stones. I would like to argue that with the kick pleats from the Sundial suit, but we haven't gotten to that suit yet, so we'll get there. Now we're gonna get to some suits that the names are not so politically correct. Please do not shoot the messenger. These suits were named in the 70s. I will be rephrasing one of the names of one of the suits because I do not want to get demonetized on YouTube. Otherwise, I'll pay more attention to the different name versions rather than the less politically correct ones. The Black Conquistador suit. It was seen on the cover for the 77 Way Down album, but they were commissioned in 76. They being the black and white versions of these suits. And they each have their original belt. The Aztec Star, or Tiffany for the light blue color that it was, he wore this in Honolulu in November of 72, and wore 3 different belts with it. The original, the white firework, and gold attendance. Why couldn't I think of that? He wears gold attendance one with everything. The Saturn suit, also known as the Planet suit. Either worn with its original belt or the gold attendance, worn in November of 72, and is now with a private collector. The Aloha suit, also known as the American Eagle suit of 73, because we're getting an updated version later. And there were 3 different versions of this belt made, but he normally wore it with the second or third because he wasn't a huge fan of the first. And we have a quote from the book. In January 73, Elvis performed in the first concert seen via satellite. It was viewed in over 40 countries by 1.5 billion people. When planning the show, Elvis wanted to wear a jumpsuit that represented the country he loved. He chose the American Eagle design and colors red, white, and blue. Elvis had 2 near identical suits made, wearing one during the dress rehearsal and the other for the broadcast. The suit's original cape was calf length. However, when Elvis tried it on, he fell over. He had Bill make a shorter one, waist length, to wear on stage. During the show, Elvis tossed the jumpsuit's matching belt into the audience, and then at the end of the show, the suit's cape. The cape changed hands over the years, eventually ending up in the collection of Andrew Kern. Upon passing in 95, Mr. Kern willed the cape to the Graceland archives. And now that we have official documentation of him tripping over these capes, it's time for Edna.
No capes. No capes. No, go on.
With him tripping over his capes, it also makes me think about how heavy a lot of these capes had to be because they had so many rhinestones and bedazzlements, embroidery on them, all that good stuff. If this cape is past his knees, and he's quite a tall man, there's going to be a whole bunch of studs, and this cape has got to be at least the weight of a small dog. I took a bunch of pictures of this one, mostly because it was within eyesight for me. It was set closer to the floor and gave viewers much more of a range of how you could walk around it to get pictures. Again, I was very focused on the details on the cuffs. Also, with the suit, within the children's exhibit part of the museum, there was a touch exhibit where you could feel a whole bunch of the items resembling things that Elvis had either worn or owned, and there was a variation of the eagle design up on the wall, so I was like, yep, I gotta touch them.
I want to touch it.
I'm also obsessed with those peacock windows. I want some.
Yeah, I want to touch them.
Touch. It was actually hilarious how much my brain, the whole time I was there, I was like, must touch. Must touch. I gotta touch him! Then I went to the area of the museum where they have costumes that other famous people have worn that were inspired by EP. And the one that I wanted to share with you all for this video is Dwayne Johnson's eagle suit. Because I keep trying to explain to people how large Elvis was as a person compared to the average size human back in the 60s. This concept of Dwayne Johnson wearing an eagle suit explains it pretty well. We have a man at 6'5" who is fully freaking muscled in one of these very large and heavy suits. The photo does not do this costume justice, because as I walked up to it with the suit on its little platform, giving it more height, as well as Dwayne Johnson just being a large human, I'm standing in front of it going, oh my gosh, he's very tall. Because I'm only 5 feet tall, and I'm a lot closer to the average height that was going on in the 60s. So this gives a great comparison to how tall Elvis must have felt back in those days. Next up is the Pharaoh suit. It is also called the Today suit as well as the Egyptian suit. It was worn in '73 for the January-February Vegas debut, and it had its original belt, but he also wore it with the fire belt or the nail-studded belt. The orange target suit or the orange starburst suit. Multiple designs of this were made with varying colors, but this was one of the ones that came to fruition. It was used for the '73 Raised on Rock album, but also in early '74. And it came with its original belt. The Blue Rain suit. Also known as the Nashville suit, it's considered one of the rare suits because he didn't wear it very often, only for the '73 January-February Vegas debut. When taking pictures of this myself, there were pieces that I hadn't noticed in the older photos of him originally wearing it, because in the museum you can see all of the little white studs that are on the belt also have flecks of dark blue to match the dark blue studs on the rest of the belt, which I thought was a really cool little detail. The multicolored rain suit. There is no footage of him ever wearing this. It did come with its original belt. However, it does match all of the designs within the January-February debut. Although Graceland does have the wrong belt on it right now in the museum, currently the original multicolored rain suit belt is paired with the Arabian suit at the museum. The blue pinwheel, coming with its original belt. No pictures or footage of Elvis wearing this one. Within the design choice of January-February, and this is considered an upgraded version of the pinwheels from '71. I did take pictures of this one myself, and that was because this was one I did not recognize. That's because there were no pictures of him ever taken wearing this one. I also really like the light blue suits personally. But the suit was another one that was on the second layer, and I couldn't really reach it. The nail-studded suit, also called the white nail suit. It has its original belt, but he often wore it with the Pharaoh belt. It came from the '73 April tour, and its counterpart is the nail-mirrored suit. When taking pictures of the cape for this costume, I actually noticed a little bit of makeup or something that rubbed off on the collar. It's interesting that there aren't more marks on the white suits. He did a really good job of not staining them. I'm impressed. And I took pictures of this one at the museum just because I really like the iridescent colors. The white Spanish flower. It came with its original belt. He wore it for the August-September of 73, and then in 74 he wore it in January-February. There are two other versions of this suit. The black Spanish flower with blue and green stones, and then the black Spanish flower with red stones.